Hi everyone, Renee. We're going to make our next card, which is a wonderful little card, I think, that you'll like. It is using a die cut by Cottage Cuts. I'm not quite sure what the name of the die cut is. I like to call it Snowy Hill. I just thought that's kind of what it reminds me of, just a snowy hill with kids playing on it. So that's what we're going to use today. I've already done all your die cutting for you. So this is what your die cut looks like. It's a little bit intricate, so we're just going to sit it off to the side, and we'll get back to that in a minute. Then you have a piece of paper, and I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it, but it does have an embossed Merry Christmas. That's what we're going to use for our technique today. So we'll put that down. Then you have two more white pieces. One is a little bit bigger than the other, and those are your inside pieces, and I'll show you what we're going to do with those in just a moment. Then you have your card base, which today it's going to be a top folding card base, and of course your envelope. So just go ahead and put those aside as well. So excuse my voice today. Not sure how many of you are also having problems with allergies, but it's horrible right now, mid-October. You won't be seeing this until November. Hopefully my allergies will be gone by then. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a technique called ink blending. So what I have for you on your table are cubes of these two different Tim Holtz Distress inks. One is Chipped Sapphire and the other is Broken China. And then you'll notice that there are these little wood-handled things. These are called blending tools. And you'll have one for Chipped Sapphire, which is the darker, and one for Broken China, and they'll just be around the table. So what I like to start with when I'm doing ink blending is I always like to start with my lightest color first. So just go ahead and take your lid off, and you're just going to load up this is just foam, and you're just going to load it up with some ink. So just, kind of pounce around, pick up some ink. Now, the one thing you want to think about when you're doing ink blending is you want to start off the paper, because you don't want to get like, a big circle on the paper. And I've cut this today for you out of Bristol Smooth white cardstock. I find that Bristol works the best with distress inks. And then you'll notice that as we start blending the ink, the embossed sentiment is going to just like pop out like magic. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So just kind of roll, and as you go, you'll start seeing your color come along. And just go ahead and get more ink whenever you need more ink. And just keep working around. And you can make it as dark or as light as you like. And you can make it, any kind of direction you want. If I'm going to show you the way I did it, is I wanted the sky to be a little bit darker at the top than near the bottom. You are going to cover this bottom portion with your die cut, so you don't need to worry too much about that, but I do want it to blend in. So now I'm going to start bringing the color a little bit more into the paper. And you don't need to give it a lot of pressure, but enough pressure to get your ink moving around. Okay, and just kind of fill in your spots however you like. Okay, I kind of like that. So I think what I'm going to do, put your lid back on your ink so it doesn't dry out. And then I'm going to go to the Chipped Sapphire, which is the darker blue. And I'm going to work on this top part and bringing it down. So you just go ahead and ink up. I'm sorry, I'm probably off camera. Sorry about that. Ink up your blending tool, and you're just going to want to start bringing it in. So it's pretty much the same technique that we were doing on the bottom part. And you'll see that as you do this, you're actually going to end up with three main colors. You're going to end up with your light blue, your Chipped Sapphire, and then you're going to kind of get a purplish kind of color working here in the middle, which I think is really a neat look. And so I like to layer mine a little bit. And so you can bring it down as far as you want. You can do as much as you want. I think this looks kind of nice, so I think I'm going to stop right there. Put my lid back on my ink. And then what you want to do is there are Kleenexes on the table. You just want to buff that white spot where your sentiment is to get the ink off of the sentiment, and you'll see you pick up a little bit of ink. Okay. If you get fingerprints like I did, if you get fingerprints, just rub the Kleenex over those fingerprints and you can blend them back in. If they still don't come off the way you like, you can just grab your ink blending tool again and put a little more ink in those spots. And there you go. So now what you want to do is you just want to sit that off to the side and let it dry a little bit. It's not really wet, but it has a little bit of moisture to it. So you want to sit that off to the side. And then what you want to do is, of those two papers, you want to grab the larger of them. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do some inking around the edges just to give it some color. Now for me, I prefer the darker. You can use whichever one you like. You can do both. Really doesn't matter. And you don't have to be too worried about this because you're only going to see like the outside 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. So there's no need to really go crazy and fill up the whole paper with ink. You don't need to worry about that. And you'll see that you have some ink left on your blending mat. You can just go ahead and pick that up, pick up some more of this, and just give yourself a nice little edge. Okay, and then when you're done, just go ahead, put your lid back on your ink, and then go ahead and take your piece, and you can just set it aside and let it dry as well while we work on some other pieces. And then what you want to do is you want to take your Kleenex and just get all that extra ink off of here, because you don't want to get that ink everywhere. Okay, and once you're all done with your inking, I would recommend that before you start working on the rest of your card, that you grab a baby wipe. I've got some baby wipes there for you on the table. Just grab a baby wipe and clean your fingers up real good, because we don't want to get all this ink on our little white die cut. It's supposed to be a snow hill. So just go ahead and get that all cleaned up, and then just get your hands all dry. And then the next technique we're going to use is, I have this fun little pen. It is called a Wink of Stella, Wink of Stella brush. I've got these. I've got some other types of glitter markers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to glitter this little guy up so that it really looks like it's covered with snow. All of the brushes are pretty much the same, so feel free to grab whichever one you want to use. And you're just gonna do a little bit of this, and I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, and if you don't get any coming out, just squeeze it slightly. Don't squeeze it really hard, or else you're gonna make a big old mess. And just get yourself some more of the glitter coming out, and it doesn't take much, just a little tiny bit. And go ahead and get all your trees covered, and your little church. And if you're not a big fan of the glitter look, you can skip this part. You don't need to do it. My husband's not a big fan of the glittered look, but he did like this. I think he felt that this was just subtle enough. It wasn't, like, hey, look at me. So once you got that all done, just put your lid back on, and if you wouldn't mind taking your baby wipe that you just used to clean your fingers, do a quick swipe of your little non-stick mat and set it to the side. You won't need that anymore. So what you want is you want all of the pieces that you did your inking on, and hopefully I'm staying in camera here for you all. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach all of our pieces to our card base. So I've put some adhesive runners, glue runners on your table. Feel free to use those. I'm actually going to go ahead and use my big tape runner just to make it a little bit quicker for the video. And if you get any of the adhesive off the sides, just rub your finger and it'll take it off. And then this piece right here is going to go on the inside of your card, on the inside flap where you're going to write your message. So you're just going to go ahead and attach that down, leaving yourself the same amount of space, top, bottom, and sides, just like that. And then the smaller piece that you left completely white, you're going to put some adhesive on that. There you go. And just center that. And this is going to be where you can write your message to your recipient. Okay, so that's the inside of our card. So we can go ahead and set that off to the side. Then we're going to take the front of our card and our little piece that we did the Wink of Stella or a glitter pen on, and you're going to actually glue it down here on the bottom. Now, the best way to do that is to use some liquid glue, and I've placed some liquid glue on your table. This is called Tombow Mono Multi. I really like this glue. You do have to be a little careful with it though, and don't let it sploosh out anywhere, so don't use a whole bunch of it. All you want is just some little dots. Oops, I've used too much. Look at that already. I tell you what not to do and I do it anyway. Okay, so just little tiny dots of the glue in little places. You don't have to glue. These cards are not going to go through, you know, like a big hurricane, or hopefully, you know, going to be thrown all over the place and have to worry about being extra secure. So, but we do want enough so that they don't come, so that it doesn't come up. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to glue this piece onto the bottom of your card. And the other nice thing about this glue is it gives you time to straighten it up after you get it down. So it doesn't dry immediately, but it is pretty quick drying. Okay, so you just want to push it down, make sure it's all secure. And I kind of like it with the tree not being completely attached, because I think it gives it some dimension. So if you like that too, you can go ahead and pull that up a little bit. And there you go. And then the next part we're going to do is put the lid on our glue. I'm famous for forgetting to do that. Put the lid on our glue. And then you're going to attach this to the front of your card. Now, these were all hand cut by me, probably when I've had a little too much coffee or, you know, a little tired. So they may not fit exactly right on the front. So what I usually do is I stand my card up. So this is going to be where the card opens. I usually stand it up. I stand up the piece that I'm attaching, and I just line them up like that and then push them down. And that tends to get them pretty close. Now, if you have any edges that you don't like, I do have scissors on the table. And if there are any edges that don't quite match up, like I said, these were hand cut, so there's going to be little differences here and there. So see, that's not much, just a little piece to cut off. Just take a look, and if you see any that you think need to be trimmed off, just go ahead and trim them. Look inside, so there's a little piece there. And there you go, you're all finished. So there's your Snowy Hill Christmas card. I hope you had a good time.